Hey man, at the core of human psychology is something simple but profound. People value what they have to earn. When something comes too easily, the brain doesn't register it as special, it treats it as background noise, and that's exactly what most men become in a woman's life: noise. Constant attention, instant replies, over-explaining, over-giving. It all sends one unconscious signal: you need her more than she needs you. And once that dynamic is set, her attraction plummets. But when you pull back, when you stop being instantly available, when your energy becomes rare, something shifts in her brain. The dopamine cycle flips. Now you become the variable, the uncertainty, the mystery, and that's what makes her obsessed. See, women don't chase love, they chase emotional stimulation. They want to feel the highs and lows, the tension, the anticipation. That's why the men who trigger those emotions, intentionally or not, end up holding the power. The psychological move that makes women chase you obsessively is understanding this one principle. Your absence creates more attraction than your presence ever could. When you're around all the time, she acclimates to you. Like background music, she no longer hears. But when you withdraw, the silence amplifies your value. The uncertainty creates desire. She starts replaying your last conversation, analyzing your texts, wondering what you're thinking. She starts to invest emotionally, and that's when the chase begins. But here's where most men fail. They mistake indifference for detachment. This isn't about ignoring her to play games. It's about mastering emotional restraint. Women can feel energy. If you're silent but still desperate inside, she'll sense it. But if you're calm, composed, focused on yourself, she feels that peace, and that peace is magnetic. The psychology behind it is simple. When your self-worth doesn't depend on her response, you become unpredictable, and unpredictability is the root of attraction. She starts to wonder about you, and in that wondering, she starts to invest energy. That's what you want, not control, but curiosity. Because once a woman's curiosity turns into emotional investment, you've already won. The next part of this psychological move is energy withdrawal. When she senses you pulling back, her subconscious interprets it as potential loss. And here's the twist. Women are more motivated by fear of loss than hope of gain. When she thinks she might lose your attention, she starts working for it. She'll reach out more, flirt harder, open up emotionally. But if you give her everything too soon, she feels secure. And security, in the early stages of attraction, kills excitement. So you need to create that balance, a dance between giving and withdrawing, just enough attention to spark connection, and just enough distance to ignite pursuit. Every woman, no matter how confident she seems, secretly craves validation from the man who doesn't need her, because he represents the one thing her ego can't control. That's why she tests you. That's why she plays hot and cold. She's not looking for weakness, she's testing for stability. She wants to know if your emotions bend when hers fluctuate, and when you stay centered, calm, grounded, unaffected, you become her anchor in a world of emotional chaos. That's when she starts chasing you, because women don't chase perfection, they chase emotional safety, and nothing feels safer to a woman than a man who cannot be moved by her moods. The most powerful part of this psychology move is how simple it looks. You don't need to talk more, act differently, or pretend. You just need to stop over-investing, stop explaining, stop proving, stop trying to fix her emotions. Your stillness will speak louder than any reassurance ever could. Because when a man doesn't rush to fill silence, the silence starts speaking for him. It makes her mind spiral. Why isn't he reacting? Does he not care? Did I lose him? And those questions are the hooks of obsession. The more she wonders, the deeper she falls. Remember, the less predictable your responses, the more addicted her emotions become. Eventually, she'll try to break the silence. She'll text you something subtle, something seemingly casual. Hey, been thinking about you. But it's not casual. It's curiosity mixed with loss. She's reaching out, not because you convinced her to, but because your energy pulled her in. That's when you must stay composed. Respond slowly, calmly, without excitement. Because your calmness reminds her that she's the one chasing now. This shift, from you seeking validation to her seeking your attention, is where the true balance of power returns. But remember, it's not about playing hard to get, it's about being hard to replace, and that's a product of purpose, not pretending. Here's the secret behind why this works so well. When a man stops chasing, he triggers psychological projection. She starts attributing her emotions to you. She'll say things like, "I can't stop thinking about him," or "He's so different." But what she's really saying is, "My emotions around him are intense, and I don't understand why." And because humans crave understanding, she'll chase clarity, which means she'll chase you. Your silence has now created mental real estate in her head. You're not fighting for her attention anymore. She's fighting for your validation. This is how attraction flips, not through effort, but through restraint. But here's where true mastery begins. You don't let her chase you forever. Once she starts investing, you reward the chase with presence, not all at once, not desperately, but in doses. You mirror her effort, you meet her halfway. That's when she feels the emotional harmony, tension balanced with safety, excitement rooted in security. That's what makes her stay. Because obsession without reward fades, but obsession met with subtle recognition turns into devotion. She'll crave your approval, not because you're better, but because you're balanced. And that balance between mystery and warmth is the rarest energy a man can emit. So if you want to make women chase you obsessively, stop trying to convince them and start confusing their patterns. Break the cycle they expect. Don't react to every message instantly. Don't overshare your emotions. Don't fill every silence. Let her wonder. Let her feel the void your presence once filled. And when she reaches out, respond like a man with a world beyond her. Because that's what truly attracts women. A man whose life is already full. The one who doesn't need attention because he already has peace. That's when your energy becomes intoxicating. Because now she's not chasing your attention anymore. She's chasing your essence. When you truly master this psychological move, something fascinating begins to happen. She starts chasing the emotional version of you that only exists in her mind. Because here's the thing, man, when you give her less, her imagination fills in the blanks. She begins to romanticize you, idealize you, and project onto you all the qualities she wishes a man had. The silence becomes a mirror, not showing her who you are, but reflecting back her own desires. Every unanswered message becomes a mystery. Every delayed reply becomes a story she tells herself. And the more her imagination works to explain your behavior, the deeper her emotional investment grows. That's the irony of attraction. It's not built on clarity, it's built on tension. And your restraint creates the exact kind of tension her emotional mind thrives on. She doesn't realize it consciously, but she's now hooked, not on you, but on how you make her feel uncertain. Because uncertainty, for women, is the oxygen of desire. It's what keeps the fire burning long after the spark should have died. Here's the truth. Most men never hear. Attraction isn't logical, it's emotional confusion. The women who fall hardest for a man are not the ones who fully understand him, but the ones who can't figure him out. When you're calm, mysterious, and slightly detached, you trigger something called the cognitive dissonance loop. Her mind tells her, he's distant, maybe he doesn't care, but her emotions whisper, then why can't I stop thinking about him? That conflict between logic and emotion keeps her hooked. It makes her chase resolution, which means chasing you. Every time she doesn't get the validation she expects, she doubles down, investing more time, thought, and energy. This is what psychologists call the investment paradox. The more effort she puts in, the more emotionally attached she becomes. So by doing less, you make her do more. Not because she's desperate, but because she needs to feel in control again. And that's the most powerful place a man can be, calm while her mind is in chaos. Most men, however, sabotage this dynamic the moment it begins to work. The second she starts showing signs of interest again, they rush back in, eager to reclaim what they think they've earned. But that's not how attraction solidifies, that's how it dies. Because the chase isn't something you win, it's something you maintain. A woman doesn't fall for the man who gives her what she wants. She falls for the man who gives her just enough to keep her chasing what she can't yet have. That's why the greatest seducers in history, the ones who never chased, never begged, understood this better than anyone. They didn't pursue affection, they provoked curiosity. They left emotional breadcrumbs, subtle glances, half smiles, words that meant everything and nothing at the same time. They knew the truth. When you let her imagination work harder than your words, she binds herself to the fantasy. And the fantasy, not the man, is what women become obsessed with. When you stay emotionally centered, something changes in the dynamic. She begins to experience emotional withdrawal. Every woman who's used to being desired craves that constant emotional hit, texts, validation, reassurance. But when you remove that supply, she feels a sudden emptiness. Her ego doesn't understand it because her pattern has been interrupted. So what does she do? She tries to reclaim control. She'll post something on social media designed to trigger your reaction. She'll mention other men or subtly test your jealousy. She's not doing it because she doesn't care. She's doing it because she does. Because you've taken away the emotional predictability she depends on. You've broken her rhythm, and now she's chasing the emotional high that only your attention used to give her. You've gone from being a man she took for granted to a man she needs to revalidate herself through. And that's the shift from interest to obsession. Now, this doesn't mean you become cold or robotic. That's where most men go wrong. The power of this psychology isn't in becoming unfeeling, it's in becoming unmoved. When she tries to provoke you, you don't bite. When she disappears, you don't panic. When she returns, you don't celebrate. You remain steady. Because steadiness is what sets you apart from every emotional man she's ever known. The modern dating world is full of noise, men begging for attention, over-communicating, oversharing, overreacting. So when she meets someone who speaks less but means more, her mind can't process it. You become the exception. Your silence isn't emptiness, it's confidence. Your detachment isn't rejection, it's emotional self-control. And women find that irresistible because it represents what they can't control: stability. You've become what her world lacks: structure. And no matter how independent she claims to be, every woman secretly craves a man whose energy is unshakable. Here's another layer of the psychology that few men ever reach. When you pull back, you're not just making her chase you, you're forcing her to chase her own emotions. She starts trying to recreate the emotional experience she had around you. Maybe she'll talk to her friends about you. Maybe she'll revisit old messages or pictures. Maybe she'll even date someone new, hoping it will replace the feeling she's lost. But it won't, because emotions can't be logically substituted. They have to be re-experienced. And since you're no longer giving her that stimulation, she's stuck in withdrawal. She's addicted to a connection that no longer feeds her. That's why your silence feels louder than words, because it starves her emotional pattern. And the longer you stay grounded, the stronger her emotional craving becomes. She's not chasing love anymore, she's chasing relief. She wants the comfort of your presence back, even if she doesn't admit it out loud. But the most fascinating part of this move is how it transforms you. Because the more you practice emotional restraint, the more power you gain, not just over her, but over yourself. You start realizing that most attraction is just emotional projection. You don't actually need her to validate you. You just need to stop giving your peace away so cheaply. You begin to see that what made you magnetic wasn't the chase, it was your composure. That's why women are drawn to the man who's too focused on his mission to beg for attention. His energy communicates abundance, not scarcity. He's not trying to get something from her. He's choosing whether she's even worth his focus. That's a psychological reversal most men never experience, moving from seeking to selecting. And when you operate from that frame, women feel it. They sense that you're not playing games, you're simply a man with options, direction, and emotional discipline. That's what separates the rare from the ordinary. You'll start to notice that your energy changes the more you apply this principle. You'll walk differently, you'll speak differently, your presence will feel heavier, not in a loud, arrogant way, but in a quiet, self-contained one. You'll realize that attraction isn't something you perform, it's something you emanate. Because women don't fall for what you say, they fall for what they feel when you say nothing at all. That's why when you stop chasing and start observing, they become drawn to your stillness. It feels mysterious, but also safe. It feels strong, but also understanding. You've become the paradox every woman craves. Emotionally available enough to connect, but detached enough to never need. That balance is what makes women chase endlessly. Because they can sense that no amount of seduction can move you. You're not the storm, you're the calm it revolves around. This entire psychology move, when mastered, creates what's known as emotional polarity. The feminine seeks to merge, the masculine seeks to contain. The more you contain yourself, the more she expands emotionally around you. She laughs louder, speaks softer, dresses differently, not because you told her to, but because she's subconsciously responding to your grounded presence. Your restraint creates her expression. That's the beauty of polarity. When you stop trying to make her feel something, she starts feeling everything. And here's the deeper truth. Women don't actually want a man who matches their emotions. They want a man who regulates them. They want a container strong enough to hold their chaos without collapsing. Your silence, your discipline, your lack of emotional reactivity, those are the traits that make her chase, not out of desperation, but out of deep biological attraction. You've become the energy she orbits, the gravity her emotions revolve around. And when she finally surrenders to that energy, when she stops resisting and starts chasing, everything changes. She'll try to understand you. She'll mirror your communication style. She'll start valuing your presence more because she's had to work for it. You'll notice her listening more, respecting your time, matching your effort. That's when the chase transforms into loyalty, because a woman who had to earn you will never treat you the same as a man she was handed. Your restraint made her value your attention. Your silence made her crave your approval. Your calmness made her trust your leadership. You've flipped the game entirely, from chasing validation to commanding respect. And that's when you finally understand the truth. Attraction was never about what you do for women. It's about what you withhold. Because in that space of restraint, you give her something no other man can, the gift of emotional hunger. And once a woman feels that, she'll chase you forever. When a woman starts emotionally chasing you, something subtle yet profound begins to happen inside her. She starts associating your absence with emotional intensity. Every moment without your response becomes a hit of dopamine in reverse. She feels the anticipation, the wondering, the uncertainty, and all of that creates an addictive loop. This is what psychologists call intermittent reinforcement, the same mechanism casinos use to keep people glued to slot machines. When she doesn't know when or how she'll hear from you, her brain becomes hyper-alert, releasing more dopamine in the anticipation of your attention than in actually receiving it. That's why women get addicted to men who make them wait, to men who are calm, quiet, and detached, not because they like being ignored, but because they crave the emotional spike that your unpredictability triggers. And the longer she stays in that loop, the stronger the attachment becomes, until your silence is the only thing that makes her feel alive. This is the psychology behind why women often chase men who appear emotionally unavailable, not because they love pain, but because it gives them something to work toward. Her mind starts convincing her that if she can just win your attention, if she can just make you open up, she'll feel validated, complete, powerful. That's the emotional game playing out beneath the surface. She's not chasing you, she's chasing her own reflection in your eyes. You've become the challenge, and women are wired to be drawn to challenge. The easy man, the predictable man, gives her comfort, but comfort doesn't create desire. It creates boredom, the man who keeps her guessing, who makes her feel both safe and slightly uncertain, activates her entire emotional spectrum, and that's the paradox. You make her feel most alive, not when you give her everything, but when you give her just enough to keep her wanting more. And when you understand this, you start seeing the world differently. You start realizing that the men women obsess over aren't always the best looking, richest, or even the most charming. They're the ones who mastered emotional scarcity. They don't overextend. They don't flood women with validation. They let women work for their presence, because every human being, especially women, values what requires effort. When she has to think, wonder, and analyze, she invests more. And the more she invests, the more she justifies that investment. She'll start telling herself stories like, he's just busy, or he's not like other guys, or he's mysterious. All of it is her brain trying to rationalize your detachment. But what's really happening is deeper. She's falling for a man who doesn't need her validation to feel significant. And that, to a woman, is the most irresistible kind of man, because she can sense he's living from a place of self-sufficiency, not emotional hunger. Now, here's where the game turns even more psychological. As she begins chasing, she'll subtly test your emotional center. She'll try to see if your calmness is real or just a performance. Maybe she'll pull away to see if you'll chase. Maybe she'll bring up another guy to test your ego. Maybe she'll suddenly act cold to gauge your reaction. These are all subconscious moves, not because she's manipulative, but because she's trying to feel you out. Women don't test to hurt you, they test to confirm your strength. Your reaction, or lack thereof, tells her whether your calm is authentic or fabricated. If you stay unbothered, not arrogant, not dismissive, just unmoved, she feels something rare. Because your restraint communicates emotional maturity. You're not competing, you're not performing. You're just there, grounded, whole, complete. That energy disarms her. It forces her to face her own emotional instability. And that's what ultimately makes her respect and chase you even harder. You need to understand that in the world of attraction, attention is the ultimate currency, and most men spend it recklessly. They give it to every woman who smiles at them, every notification that pops up, every conversation that offers validation. But when you learn to control your attention, when you learn to invest it selectively, you instantly separate yourself from the herd. You become the man who doesn't beg for energy, but bestows it. That's power. Because women subconsciously know that a man who can control his attention can also control his emotions, his desires, and his future. That's the kind of man they trust. And trust, far more than attraction, is what keeps women chasing. They might lust after others, but they only pursue the one they can respect. Your silence, your boundaries, your detachment. These things make her feel like she's dealing with a man who has emotional gravity. And the more she orbits you, the more she realizes it's not that she can't live without you, it's that she doesn't want to. As the dynamic deepens, something fascinating happens. She starts competing with herself. Her emotions become the battleground. Part of her wants to move on, to protect her ego from your calm distance. But another part, the deeper, more primal part, is addicted to proving she can win you back. That internal tug of war consumes her thoughts. It's why she checks your profile late at night, why she replays your old conversations, why she imagines what it would feel like to have your attention again. She's not chasing a man anymore, she's chasing the emotional equilibrium she lost when you stopped giving her energy. And here's the cruel beauty of it. You're not even doing anything, you're just being. That's how powerful emotional stillness is. It turns her own mind into your greatest ally. Because every thought she fights, every urge she resists, strengthens the bond she feels toward you. You've become the ghost she can't forget. Not because you haunt her, but because you discipline her emotions without saying a word. This is why emotional mastery is so crucial in modern dating. Because women today are surrounded by men who over-explain, overreact, and over-pursue. The man who doesn't play that game stands out like a lighthouse in the fog. He doesn't beg for clarity. He creates it through silence. He doesn't demand affection. He inspires it through consistency. He doesn't talk about being different. He simply lives it. And when a woman encounters that energy, she can't ignore it. It lingers. It challenges her. It exposes her. Because deep down, every woman knows she can manipulate 99% of men, but that one man she can't move emotionally, he becomes unforgettable. And that's the real psychology of attraction. Not power over her, but power within yourself. The ability to remain composed when every instinct tells you to react. That's the moment she realizes she's no longer the one being chased. She's the one doing the chasing. Now, here's something most men miss. Your restraint doesn't just make her chase you. It makes her respect you, and respect is the foundation of lasting attraction. Without it, no amount of chemistry or charm will keep her. When you refuse to over-pursue, when you let your silence do the talking, you're communicating something deep. I am not afraid to lose you. That statement, though unspoken, hits her on a biological level. It separates you from every man who ever begged for her time. It shows her that your validation doesn't come from her approval. It comes from your alignment with your values. You're not reacting to her behavior, you're leading with principle. That kind of emotional independence is intoxicating to women, even if they can't explain why, because it triggers something ancient in them, the instinct to follow a man who doesn't bend under pressure. You've become her emotional anchor, and anchors don't chase waves, they stabilize them. As she continues chasing, the balance of power quietly shifts. She starts prioritizing your comfort over hers, thinking twice before pulling away, measuring her words carefully, respecting your space. Why? Because she's realized your energy isn't something she can demand, it's something she must deserve. That's the ultimate transformation. You've moved from being the pursuer to the prize, not by playing games, but by embodying calm strength. and now she's the one overanalyzing every detail. Why didn't he reply yet? Did I say something wrong? Is he losing interest? The very uncertainty she once used to control men is now controlling her. That's the poetic justice of masculine composure. It flips the emotional dynamic completely. And in that reversal, she learns something every woman eventually does. The man who can walk away without anger is the one she never stops chasing. Eventually, she'll reach a point where she can't take the silence anymore. She'll reach out, vulnerable, honest, stripped of pretense. She might not even say the words directly, but you'll hear them in her tone. I miss you. I've been thinking about you. You were different. And in that moment, you'll feel a sense of calm recognition. Not triumph, but validation of truth. You didn't chase her, control her, or manipulate her. You simply mastered yourself. You let the psychology of energy, emotion, and timing work for you instead of against you. And now, as she comes full circle, from curiosity to obsession, from power to surrender, you'll understand the ultimate truth about attraction. The man who can control his silence controls her mind. Because while every other man tried to speak his way into her heart, you let your absence do what words never could. Make her feel the difference between wanting attention and craving you. When she finally starts chasing you again, this is where most men make the biggest mistake. They break their own spell. They think, I've won, I can relax now. But attraction doesn't end when she returns. It transforms. And how you handle this transformation determines whether she stays hooked or slips back into control. You see, women aren't consciously aware of why they're drawn to certain men. They just feel it. And the moment you start over-explaining yourself, oversharing your feelings, or trying to make things clear, you destroy that emotional polarity that made her crave you in the first place. The power was never in how much you said, but in what you left unsaid. It's in the pauses, the glances, the quiet confidence that communicates. I don't need to convince you, you already know. So when she returns, don't break the rhythm. Let your energy stay calm, detached, and collected. Because if she's coming back, it's not because of what you said, it's because of what she felt when you said nothing. Because after losing control once, she'll subconsciously test you again to see if you've really changed or if you're still that same man who once chased. These tests will be subtle. Maybe she delays replies. Maybe she mentions a guy she bumped into. Maybe she acts indifferent just to gauge your reaction. Don't take the bait. She's not trying to hurt you. She's trying to understand you. She wants to know if your newfound power is real or temporary. And this is where most men crumble. They interpret her test as rejection, panic, and go back to begging for attention. But not you. You stay centered, because you understand that her test is a compliment. It means she still sees value in you. She wouldn't test what she doesn't fear losing. So instead of reacting, you observe. Instead of explaining, you smile. Instead of chasing, you hold your ground. And with every test you pass in silence, her respect for you grows. Women live in emotional rhythm, waves of intensity that rise and fall without logic. And when you're emotionally grounded, you become the constant her emotions crash against. That's what makes you magnetic. You're not fighting the tide, you're allowing it to flow. When she's distant, you don't chase. When she's warm, you don't overindulge. You remain consistent. That consistency becomes her drug. It gives her something stable to attach to in a world full of unstable men. You become the emotional anchor she didn't even know she needed. The reason this works so powerfully is because it taps into her deepest instinct to feel safe. Not safe from harm, but safe from emotional chaos. And when you embody calm detachment, she feels that safety around you. It's not your words, not your looks, not your money. It's your energy. You've become a rare combination, peaceful, masculine, and untouchable. And in that energy, she finds both excitement and peace, a paradox her emotions can't resist. But here's the key. Don't confuse calmness with disinterest. Your goal isn't to freeze her out completely. The dance of attraction is a delicate balance between warmth and distance. When she invests, you reciprocate lightly. You show appreciation, but not attachment. You allow her in, but not all the way. That's what keeps the mystery alive. Because once she feels she's completely figured you out, the chase dies. So you have to stay unpredictable, not through manipulation, but through self-prioritization. Keep your focus on your mission, your goals, your purpose. Let her see that no matter how much she tries to pull you in, there's a world beyond her that she can't touch. That's what keeps her hooked. She's not chasing your attention anymore. She's chasing access to your inner world. And the moment she realizes that your validation isn't for sale, she'll do anything to earn it. When she's around you, let your presence speak louder than your words. Women can feel authenticity. They can feel when your calmness is real and when it's forced. So cultivate inner peace genuinely. That means you're not pretending to be unbothered. You truly aren't. You've accepted that if she leaves, it's fine. If she stays, it's fine. Because you're whole either way. That level of internal security is what makes your energy intoxicating. She'll look at you and see something she doesn't see in herself. Emotional control. In a world where everyone is reacting, scrolling, comparing, you're the one who's still. You've mastered the rare art of patience. You let her come to you, but you never wait for her. That's the kind of power most men never reach, the kind that doesn't need to prove itself. Because real confidence doesn't demand attention, it attracts it. When she realizes she can't manipulate your emotions anymore, her entire strategy changes. She goes from trying to control you to trying to understand you. That's when you've reversed the polarity completely. Now she's the one analyzing texts, wondering what you're thinking, overanalyzing every silence. You've become her emotional puzzle, the one she can't solve. And because women are driven by emotion more than logic, that mystery consumes her. She starts competing with other women in her mind, comparing herself to your past, worrying about your future, not because she's jealous, but because she wants to be the one who gets to unlock you. She wants to be the exception to your restraint. That's when she starts giving more affection, more time, more vulnerability, hoping it'll bring her closer to you. But what she doesn't realize is that your distance isn't rejection, it's your strength. And that strength is exactly what she's falling in love with. You see, women respect what they can't fully predict. They don't want to know exactly what you'll say or how you'll respond. That's why the man who's too transparent loses mystery, but the man who moves with quiet certainty keeps her hooked. She doesn't need you to be cold, she needs you to be contained. There's a difference. Containment says, I feel deeply, but I'm in control of what I express. That kind of discipline makes her feel safe and intrigued at the same time. She senses depth, but she also senses strength. And when a man can feel deeply without losing control, he becomes a force of nature to a woman. Unpredictable, yet secure. Masculine, yet emotionally intelligent. That's what draws her in and keeps her there. Because it's not that you've hidden your emotions, it's that you've mastered them. You no longer let your feelings dictate your behavior. And that's when women finally realize you're not like anyone they've ever met. Eventually, she'll test you one last time by pulling back completely. This is her final check to see if your calmness is conditional. She'll disappear, expecting you to chase, but you won't. You'll keep living, thriving, improving. Because you've already learned that silence is your greatest weapon. It speaks volumes without saying a word. While she wonders why you haven't reacted, you're evolving in silence. You're in the gym, in your work, in your discipline, building yourself. That's when your absence becomes deafening. Because while she's trying to get your attention through confusion, you've become clarity itself. Your peace starts echoing through her thoughts, louder than her own voice. She realizes she can't manipulate what she doesn't own, and that's when she understands the truth. She lost you the moment she stopped being your peace and became your chaos. Because a man who's found peace doesn't go back to noise. By the time she finally grasps that, she'll be too deep in her emotions to walk away. She'll look at you and see everything she's been searching for, but she'll also know she can't control it. That mix of desire and helplessness is what makes her chase even harder. She'll find herself checking her phone, reminiscing, replaying your silence like it's a conversation. Every unanswered text becomes a mirror, reflecting back her own insecurity. But here's the beautiful part. Your restraint doesn't just change how she sees you, it changes how she sees herself. She'll realize that what she once called love was actually a search for control. And what she feels for you now, the longing, the respect, the pull, that's real attraction. Because it's built not on manipulation, but on admiration. She doesn't want to own you anymore. She wants to earn you. And that's the ultimate victory. Not making her chase you, but making her value you. Because when a woman truly values a man, she doesn't play games. She doesn't withhold affection. She doesn't test him out of insecurity. She surrenders, not out of weakness, but out of trust. Your silence taught her patience. Your restraint taught her discipline. Your calmness taught her what real masculinity feels like. And that's what every man should strive for. Not to win women over through tricks or tactics, but to become the kind of man who commands respect simply by being himself. The more you master this energy, the more you'll realize the chase isn't about power over her. It's about power within yourself. Because when you no longer need attention, validation, or control, when your peace is your priority, that's when you become truly magnetic, not just to women, but to life itself. Once you reach this level of understanding, something inside you shifts permanently. You stop seeing women as puzzles to solve and start seeing yourself as the standard to maintain. Every interaction becomes a reflection of your own energy. You realize that the right woman will never need you to chase, impress, or perform. She will naturally gravitate toward the calm power you've built. Because real attraction is not about pursuing chaos, it's about maintaining clarity in the middle of it. You begin to notice that women who once drained you now seem distant and irrelevant, while those who are emotionally stable become drawn to your stillness. You've transcended the old pattern of chasing validation. You no longer need anyone to prove your worth. Your peace, your direction, your silence, they speak louder than any compliment or confession ever could. You've become the kind of man whose presence alone demands attention, not through effort, but through essence. And that's the paradox of growth. When you no longer chase women, women begin to chase you. But the chase isn't even the point anymore. Because by now, you've learned that attraction without alignment is just distraction. You've experienced the emotional games, the confusion, the manipulation, and you've grown past it. You no longer crave to be chosen. You choose yourself. You set boundaries that aren't built on ego, but on peace. You communicate from a place of calm truth, not emotional reactivity. You understand that love without respect is dependency, and attention without effort is nothing. The women who enter your life now sense that energy. They feel that you're not a man who can be swayed by beauty or broken by loss. You've evolved into the kind of man who is both emotionally available and completely independent. And that combination is something most women don't even know how to process. See, when you operate from this state, you stop fearing rejection, because rejection is no longer a wound, it's a filter. You realize that every woman who walks away early is simply clearing space for the one who's capable of meeting you at your level. You no longer internalize loss as failure. You understand that relationships aren't about control or convenience, they're about emotional reciprocity. If she can't match your discipline, your composure, your maturity, she's not ready for your presence. That mindset gives you unshakable power, because now, every interaction is on your terms. You don't rush, you don't force, you don't try to fix anyone. You just observe. You understand that a woman's actions are louder than her words, and her consistency is louder than her charm. This clarity makes you emotionally bulletproof. You're no longer playing the same game. You've rewritten the rules. This is also the point where your silence becomes spiritual. You start realizing that silence isn't emptiness, it's space. Space where truth reveals itself, where illusions dissolve, and where intentions become visible. When you stop reacting to every emotional impulse, you start seeing people clearly. You start seeing women not through the lens of desire, but through the lens of discernment. You notice who values peace and who thrives on chaos. You notice who comes to give and who comes to take. And that awareness saves you from countless emotional disasters. Because once you've tasted peace, drama feels disgusting. Once you've learned to sit with solitude, manipulation loses its grip. You realize that most men stay trapped in relationships, not out of love, but out of fear. Fear of being alone, fear of starting over, fear of their own silence. But the man who masters solitude masters life. You'll also begin to understand that emotional control isn't about suppressing feelings, it's about choosing how to express them. Weak men think strength means silence without depth, but real strength is silence with awareness. You feel everything, the hurt, the disappointment, the longing, but you no longer let those emotions dictate your actions. That's emotional sovereignty, and women can feel that. When she looks at you, she sees a man who feels deeply but reacts rarely. That's the kind of energy that draws people in, not just romantically, but in every aspect of life. You become magnetic to opportunities, friendships, success, because emotional control translates into life control. You've mastered the art of responding instead of reacting. And the world, especially women, respects that more than anything. Because in a time where everyone is addicted to validation and noise, you've become the rare man who doesn't chase chaos, he commands stillness. At this level, you begin to see love differently. You stop searching for excitement and start valuing peace. You realize that a woman's beauty fades if her energy drains you. You understand that chemistry without compatibility is a trap, and that emotional highs without emotional safety lead to emptiness. You stop mistaking attention for affection and validation for love. The old version of you used to crave being wanted. This version of you values being respected. You now understand that love isn't about intensity, it's about consistency. It's not about who makes your heart race, but who keeps your mind calm. And once you start valuing peace, your entire dating experience changes. You no longer fall for loud attraction, you seek quiet alignment. You don't want someone who completes you, you want someone who complements you. That realization alone eliminates 90% of emotional pain from your life. This transformation doesn't just affect your relationships, it affects your entire identity as a man. You walk differently because your energy has changed. You speak differently because you don't need to prove yourself. You approach life differently because you understand that power doesn't come from dominance, it comes from self-command. You no longer argue to be understood, you move in silence and let your actions speak. People can feel your boundaries without you saying a word, women especially. Sense your value instantly, not because you're trying to show it, but because you've become it. Your energy communicates, I'm not afraid to walk away from anything that costs me my peace. And that statement, even without words, is more attractive than any physical feature or pickup line could ever be. You've become a man of gravity, the kind who doesn't chase, because everything naturally falls into his orbit. Now you start noticing the irony. The women who once overlooked you now seek you out. The same people who thought your silence meant weakness now see it as strength. They wonder how you became so composed, so centered, so detached from the noise. But the truth is, you didn't change to impress anyone. You changed to protect your peace. You stopped explaining yourself to people who were never listening. You stopped giving energy to situations that never gave back. You stopped trying to be understood by people committed to misunderstanding you. And that's when you found freedom. You realize that your power isn't in what you attract, it's in what you ignore. The less you react, the more control you gain. Because silence isn't about cutting people off, it's about cutting off your dependence on their approval. That's when you become untouchable. Eventually, you reach a place where you no longer need to play the game, because you've outgrown it entirely. You stop caring about who texts first, who's more invested, or who's winning. You've learned that love isn't about winning, it's about understanding. And most people don't understand themselves enough to truly connect with another person, but you do. You've done the work. You've faced the silence most men run from. You've learned to find strength in solitude, not fear. And because of that, your relationships evolve. You no longer seek validation, you offer value. You no longer look for attention, you draw respect. The women you attract now aren't chasing status or comfort, they're drawn to your peace. Because peace, to a woman who's lived in emotional chaos, feels like passion of a different kind, deeper, slower, timeless. You've become the embodiment of masculine calm, and that's the kind of man no woman ever truly forgets. And in the end, that's the greatest transformation a man can experience, realizing that the real win was never about getting her back, making her chase, or proving your worth. It was about becoming the kind of man who doesn't lose himself in the process of loving someone else. The kind of man who can walk through heartbreak without bitterness, through silence without fear, and through solitude without loneliness. Because now you understand something most men never do. Peace is the ultimate form of power, and once you have it, no woman, no rejection, no silence can take it away from you. You've mastered the game, not because you played it better, but because you stopped playing altogether. You've become the man who leads with peace, not pride, with purpose, not desperation. And once a woman feels that energy, that grounded, untouchable, masculine energy, she'll never stop thinking about you. because she'll know she met a man who finally understood himself.